Hello, family, peace, and blessings to you all. How have you all been doing since our last session? We've had so much going on. Many of you had the opportunity to celebrate Passover. So I trust that all of you are well and blessed. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the new and returning listeners. Oh, you all, we are going to dig into a lot tonight. Let me just tell you, you need to go ahead and put your seatbelt on now. I'm just trying to tell you, yeah, we're going in. How you doing? Idris, Brother Clifford, Drea, Shamika, Nikki, Darnell, Vakia, how you doing, sis? Johannan, Carmen, Diamond, watchful of my salvation. I know that's right. Lamp of oil, Johanan, Vita's child, Marcia, Nikki, our Gates of Hulda moderators, chosen daughter of Zion, you Chichia, you're gonna have to forgive me on that one. Thomas, how you doing? Searching 555, Shiloh, Percy, Sister Cece, how are you, sis? Azaniah, praying for an Elisha. Brother Harold, how are you? Obadiah, Janice, Ophelia, Melanated, Rose, Sister Carr, how are you doing? Claudette, soulfully sowing seeds. Shamika Gray, Glenda Palms. So welcome to all of you watching by TV, my mother, sisters, relatives, all y'all. How you doing? So as I said, we have a lot to dig into tonight, family. Some of it may be eye-opening for some, but hang in there. Hang in there. I believe that you will see how it comes together at the end. We've been going in on the serpent connection to religion and the apostasy of the modern day religions that point back to Babylon. And we see that religions around the world are united and connected in their belief in a higher power or divine presence that transcends human existence. All claim to be on different paths that lead to the same God. That's what they say. But which one is it? Which one is it? So we're going to look at some things. As I said, all I can say is We want to know, is there a common thread in religions? Is there a common thread? And if so, what is it? Because we need to know what to look for. We need to know what to look for as his people. And the thing is, we should not be surprised that there is. Were we not warned? Matthew 13:24-25, he put another parable before them, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So we shouldn't be surprised, right? If we refer to the book of Revelation, it said the devil deceived the world. So we need to know how he did it so that we're not caught off guard. We know what to look for. We know how to warn others. How do you think he did it, though? As we're seeing, he used a religious system. And now I want to give you an example of what happened to man when he embraced another God. There are various videos that I watch periodically, and sometimes, I'll, follow it to see what's happening on it. And some of you may have seen this one. It's the video about twin sisters. and they're playing a prank on the daughter, one of her daughter. I would say the little girl's about 3, maybe. Cute little girl. But the prank is they're trying to see if she will be able to figure out which one is the real mom. And the father is recording, and he's giving the little girl instructions, telling her what to do. So in this picture, you see she's looking at both of them and she can't figure out which one is her mom. So in the video, you can hear her asking, "Are you mommy?" So that the prank has created confusion in the child's mind. And please don't miss that. In that instant, it has also created divided loyalty. To the child, she knows what her mom is supposed to look like. So her love, her affection, everything is wrapped up in her relationship with her mom. But now there are two of them. So she goes up to them and she tries to figure out which one she should go to. Quite naturally, she asks, "Are you mommy?" And they won't tell her. So the father would tell her to take certain things to mommy or go and get something from mommy. And almost always she will go to the aunt. So he then tells her to go give mommy a big, big hug. And she runs to the aunt. And then a few minutes later, because she's not sure, she hugs the mom. So the father would tell her, "Okay, go take this to mommy." She has some shoes in her hands. She gives one to each one of them because she can't figure out which one is mom. Then she said to them, "You both look like mommy." Then she asked, "Which one's mommy?" And the father says, "Well, which one is mommy?" So she walks up to both of them, and she starts doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's how confused this child is. She cannot figure out which one is mom. And after she gets through, she picks the aunt again. So finally, she runs up to the aunt and she says, "You're mommy." And later on, she ran to the other twin and said, "You're mommy." And you could tell she's a bright little girl. You can see she's trying to process this, but she can't tell the difference. What's going on in her head? Because she knows I should be pouring my love out on this one, but is it this one? I don't know. So she says to both of them, and this is very profound. She walks up to both of them and she's looking at them and looking in their eyes, and she says, "Which one is true and which one is lying? You look the same." Just listen to her words. Which one is true and which one is lying? You look the same. Then they asked her, "Do you like us looking the same?" She said no. Why is she saying no? Because it has created divided affection in her heart. Her heart knows that she should be able to pick mommy, but her eyes are saying they're both mommy. They're both mommy. Now, if you give her more time, a couple years, she'll begin to learn the little nuances about her mother, learn how she responds to things or her mannerisms, etc. And it may not be a problem for her as she continues to grow. She'll be able to identify her mother. It's the same with us in our relationship with our Heavenly Father. As we spend time in His presence and in His Word, learning about His character, how He speaks to you, or understanding what happens when His presence is there, you begin to differentiate between Him and the one trying to be Him. You grow into the relationship over time, and you don't keep falling for deception, because the enemy loves it when he can get man to worship him. This is why he's trying so hard to make himself look like the Most High in the eyes of man so that they can't tell the difference. But isn't that what he said he wanted to do? He said, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So this child, again, I believe she's about 3. She's experiencing divided loyalties and divided affection. And I'm not specifically speaking about this family. I'm talking about when it happens to us, so that we don't know. The enemy has created so much confusion where you don't know. You don't know if that's a man or a woman. It's offensive. Psalm 86:11 says, unite my heart to fear thy name. In other words, let me fear you and you alone. Don't let my heart be divided so that I'm worshiping you and another pagan deity, another God. This divided affection is also what happens when adultery occurs in a marriage. You know what they call an affair. We don't want to call it adultery anymore. It's an affair. Well, what exactly is an affair? You've created a breach in the marriage. It's adultery. And I'm going to say a few things here. And this is where a few of the brothers will get upset with me, but you need to hear it. I'm going to say it as it was given and let Yah be my defender. This is also what happens when there are multiple wives. To which one do you cleave? Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. How do you do that with 2 or 3 or 4? And I'm going to spend a little bit of time here, because I really need you to understand what happens when there is divided affection. It creates confusion. There are some of you, and it may not be any of you on the call or the live tonight. Let's just say in the Hebrew community, there are some in our community who are encouraging lust in some of our brothers by enticing them to join churches, assemblies, and fellowships by dangling a carrot in front of them. Man, when you come to our fellowship, you can have more than one wife. Now, that brother may not have ever thought about that. You need to come with us, man. You can have all the wives you want. For those of us who have been married for any length of time, you know how difficult it is to be married to one person. But is that how it happened initially? If you go back and research it and see how it was initially, when do we first see it happening? Go back and see why it happened. What was the outcome? And then examine your heart to see, why are you doing it? Because Yah is going to be looking at your why. You need to know the difference between what is his permissive will and what is his perfect will. Nowhere in scripture will you find the Most High presenting this as his plan for his creation or his people. Yes, scripture records it, and you'll find it among some of our ancestors. But why? Show one example of the Most High telling them to do it. And this is where I say some may be offended, but we need to look at some things, because the Most High will begin with his people first. If you say, well, he approved it because law was written regarding it, I say to you, go back and read what Messiah said when the Pharisees came to test him and asked, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife?" His response was, "What did Moses command you?" They said, "Moses allowed a man to write a certificate of divorce and send her away." And Yeshua responded, "Because of your hardness of heart, he wrote this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, Yah made them male and female." So it was the condition of man's heart, not because this was the Most High's perfect will. What else did he say? "Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast or cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." How many? The two. So they are no longer two, but they become one. What therefore Yah has joined together, let not man separate. This is where the response will be, well, Abraham did it. Yes, it was used as surrogacy. Sarah suggested it. It was a plan she concocted. She used the plan that the heathens around them were using to bring about the son that was promised. Was it Yah's perfect will? No. The son was supposed to come from her, but they didn't seek him for the strategy. What problems did it cause? Did Isaac do it? No. When do we see it again? We see it with Esau. How did it happen with Jacob? Laban tricked him. Jacob's heart belonged to Rachel, and it created all sorts of problems later on. All sorts of problems. Just look at the meaning behind the names of the sons to see the bitterness and sorrow it created. Not only that, but the son Jacob favored most was the son of the woman he loved most. So how can you cleave when you have divided affection? Which one will you become one with? And if you think you're cleaving simply for the act of intimacy, you've really missed it. For those among us promoting this practice, always go back to the root. Go back to the root and look at who their mentors were. Family, it's time for us to now seek Yah's perfect will, not his permissive will. Perfect will. Now, let's look at scripture to see the first time this happened. Genesis 4:16 through 19. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Most High and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methusael, I believe, and he begot Lamech. Verse 19. Then Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the second was Zillah. So where did it begin? It began with a son of Cain. With a son of Cain. Well, why did Moses write laws about it then? Some are going to say this. Moses also wrote laws concerning what should happen if a man rapes a woman. He wrote about stoning rebellious children. He wrote about incest, which should happen in those situations. The reason the law was written was so that the people would know what actions they should take if that occurred. Do we need a law to govern righteous behavior? No. So again, some may take offense to what has been said, but I'm saying what was given, and as I said, I trust Yah to be my defender. Now, do you think this is why these instructions were given in 1 Timothy 3:2? A bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife, temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior. Family, when you look at it spiritually, there is a seat in our heart that's reserved for one, the Creator, our Heavenly Father. There is a void that He and He alone can fill. He is the one we are to adore, praise, honor, and give glory to. When you look at it in the natural, there's a space in your heart that allows you to cleave to one woman. When more than that one is trying to sit on that seat in your heart, it is going to create confusion, just like it did for that little girl. Now, what the enemy has done is to present a false image to draw the love, the affection, the praise away from Yah so that man will worship him. He wants man to adore him, to love him. What is the result? It created divided loyalties, divided affection, and confusion. Now we're being told that, well, all religions lead to God. It doesn't matter which one you serve. So folks who worship Buddha are convinced he's the real one. Those in Islam, they're certain, no, it's Allah. Just a little leaven was added in over time. The agents who are working for the serpent know that he's not the creator. They know this. But their job is to make you think that he is. That's why they're called false. The little girl says, which one is true? Which one is true? This is the question man has to answer. Because the agents working for the serpent, they've been working to synchronize the world's religion so that people can't tell the difference. It has created confusion, as I said, divided loyalties and affection because man is left searching for the one that is true. Are you getting this? I hope you're getting this, family. So in the last session, I shared an excerpt from this PBS article entitled 3 Religions, One God. We have the 3 most influential monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And Christianity and Islam are supposed to be offshoots of Judaism, so they say. Here's the thing about Christianity. It is the one that's supposed to be the continuation of what was given to Yah's people. They now call it Judaism. And let's remember, when they say Judaism, they're making it seem like it was the same as the governmental order given to the ancient Israelites. But no, it wasn't. When referring to what was given to them, we're talking about the laws, statutes, and commandments, the way they were to honor, worship, and interact with the Most High as handed down by the laws and the prophets. They were supposed to know which one is true and be the example so the world will know they are worshiping the true. This one that we see is a lie. But a little leaven was mixed in. And now we have a lot of leaven. A lot. Let's look at the leaven. Remember, we're going to do a deep dive in this session. And we're focusing on Judaism because this one supposedly is the real, and the other 2 are offshoots of this one. I talked briefly about Cabala, or some say Kabbalah. And again, this information is going to be coming straight from the horse's mouth. In this session, I'm going to let the sources tell you what that leaven is. I want you to pay attention to keywords that point to the God behind this. Watch out for words like wisdom, transcendental, infinite light or inner light, and higher consciousness. So, what is Cabala? What is Cabala? Inside your body, they say, breathes a person, a soul. Inside the body of Jewish practice breathes an inner wisdom, the soul of Judaism. We often call it Cabala, is what they say, and it means receiving. Just as Jewish practices receive through an unbroken ancient tradition from the revelation at Sinai, so is its soul. Cabala, then, is the received wisdom, the native theology and cosmology of Judaism. So again, they're saying this one is the real one. Another name for Cabala, one much more revealing, is Torah Hasad. Commonly, that is mistranslated as the secret teaching. The proper translation, however, contains the opposite meaning, the teaching of the secret. The secret teaching means that we are trying to hide something from you. The teaching of the secret means that we are trying to teach something to you, to open up and reveal something hidden. So we need to understand, well, what is it that they're hiding? And why is it a secret? Why is it a secret? Because they're trying to teach you how to become one with another source. It's a union, a joining together where you become yoked to a God-like being that is not the one you should be yoked with. And you're going to see this as I go along. As I said, we're going in. We're going in. Now, don't miss this. It says, only in the past few hundred years have master teachers begun to reveal these truths openly. The Hasidic masters uncovered a light and provided a set of metaphors that allow all to approach that light, bringing the Kabbalah into the domain of even the simplest soul. Yet still, a guide is indispensable. So you need a guide to go through this process. And great care must be taken to preserve the purity of the teachings. Who is that guide? How do you know that you're receiving pure water straight from the original spring? For one thing, pure water reflects clearly. If the teacher's life does not reflect his teachings, his waters are impure. So listen, next, know that until this is supposed to be Mashiach, until Mashiach comes, the path within is never without struggle. If the teaching comes easily, it is not the inner teaching. And third, it's true that you do not need to be Jewish to imbibe the sweet wine of Cabala or learn its healing paths. But the soul of Cabala is unlike a human soul. Never can it be ripped from its body, for the marriage of soul and body is complete. Jewish practice and Cabala are one. And I'm just going to take a second there, because they're telling you straight up. Jewish practice and Cabala are one. If you are told this has nothing to do with Judaism, you are being told a lie. Hopefully you caught that. Hopefully you heard that. Again, we're going to let them tell us. So why is Cabala a secret? Pay close attention. Teaching a secret is fraught with danger. The student is in danger, for he may believe he truly understands. A mystery can never be presented without the wrappings of metaphor and parable. Perhaps the student will grasp the wrappings but fail to unravel its contents, as one who chews the husk and discards the fruit inside. The teacher is in danger, for how can he know if he is truly understood? He will teach many students. His ideas will become popularized. Their essence will be lost, and their meaning will be twisted into the opposite of his intent. So the Cabala itself is in danger, for once it has lost its integrity, immediately it is no longer the received wisdom. So listen. Only in the past few hundred years have master teachers begun to reveal these truths openly. So only about 200 years. The Hasidic masters uncovered a light and provided a set of metaphors that allow all to approach that light, bringing the Kabbalah into the domain of even the simplest soul. Yet still, a guide is indispensable, and great care must be taken to preserve the purity of the teachings. Can we just go ahead and call the guide the handler? I think you all know what I mean by that, right? Are these the handlers? Why is it such a danger to know these truths? Proverbs 16:24 tells us that the word of Yah is sweet to the soul. But this received knowledge that's supposed to give you wisdom, the serpent says he wants to make man wise. Only a select few had privy. So only about 200 years ago, they're now allowing others to know what the secret is. They're revealing these things openly. Why? Because the serpent is trying to recreate the world in his image. He wants to create the world in his image. So how is it different from other spiritual teachings? There are many wise spiritual teachings from people in every part of the globe. It says, in their practice, people find transcendence of the material world, enlightenment, and serenity. The focus of Kabbalah is not on serenity, neither is it on transcendental enlightenment. It provides those things as well, but as a means, not as a goal. The goal of Kabbalah is inspired action. Whatever wisdom the Kabbalist gains, whatever state of ecstasy or mystic union to which he or she ascends, the end result will always be an act of beauty in the physical world. To the Kabbalist, the ultimate paradise is here now. So those who have ascended, basically they're living in paradise now. So is this the way back to Eden? You get back in through a back door? It says, because the infinite light is here now. And more than any spiritual realm, this is where the infinite light yearns to be discovered. Our job is to peel away the husk, to reveal that light within each physical artifact of our world, to enlighten not only ourselves, but every living being and even the inert matter of our world. So you see, they have a goal. They are on a mission. They're trying to teach the world how to ascend through these 4 levels so that they can reach a higher level of consciousness. You'll experience enlightenment, serenity, and let's not forget ecstasy. So I found this research paper. I went through a lot of journal articles, really to try to get a grasp of this. Not too much. I do not like studying, researching topics like this. Yeah, that one this past Sunday, it was like, oh my gosh, do I have to? So this one has been sitting on the shelf for a while. This information about the Kundalini, I've been putting it off. And it's like, you gonna do this. So you all bear with me. There's a lot to unpack. And I can honestly say I see why. I see it. You'll see it when I finish. So this research, this document from the Academy of Religion is on Kundalini. They had a group of people researching this topic. It was written in 1988. And I'm going to read some excerpts from it, just enough to expose the serpent behind it, you all, because we don't need people getting, too deep into the stuff. I definitely didn't want to, but we need to expose it because a lot of our people are getting caught up because the danger behind it is hidden. So before we read it, I want to make sure you know what they're talking about as it pertains to Kundalini and how Kundalini is tied to another word you hear often in Christian churches, Shekinah, or some may say Shakina. I call it Shekinah. So this information comes from the Hermetic Library, and it's entitled Esoteric Means Secret Knowledge. So let's read it. In the Western esoteric practice, okay, when it says esoteric, it means secret knowledge. So I want to make sure you understand that. So in the Western esoteric practices, there is an apparent knowledge gap regarding the role of esoteric practices and their effects on the subtle and not so subtle bodies of practitioners. In the East, all practices, whether designated as such or not, are designated or designed to awaken the semi-dormant energy resident in all creation and living beings in particular. This energy is known as Kundalini. Listen, the serpent fire and the dragon, depending on tradition. Are they not putting this right there in your face? Is that clear enough? Is this clear enough for you to know exactly what it is and they're telling you what it is? Extreme care has been taken despite contradictions between systems to chart the effects of exercises on this latent energy and how it flows through the physical, emotional, and psychic body, at what stages and in relation to which exercises. Now, they're basically saying in the Western world, you're really not getting a lot of the meaning of what's behind this. You're buying something because you listened to the marketing campaign, but you didn't really dig into it to see what this is all about. So let's get an understanding of Shekinah. I needed to read that first. It says, a Chaldee word meaning resting place, not found in scripture, but used by the latter or later Jews to designate the visible symbol of God's presence in the tabernacle and afterwards. So this was a word assigned to the presence of the Most High. Pay attention. So they use the word Shekinah to refer to Yah's presence. I need to make sure you get that. But this word was not in scripture, not as they're using it. Imagine that. Imagine that. If you came out of Christianity, you were told it simply means the glory of the Most High. It didn't come from the scripture, so then where did it come from? Well, let's see. Again, I'm pulling sources so that we're seeing it straight from getting it from the horse's mouth. We're seeing it from the sources, some of the original sources, those who are in it, those who are practicing it, etc., so that we have a clear understanding. This information comes from Tibetan Buddhist Encyclopedia. We're getting it from the horse's mouth, right? Let's see what it says. To many students of Cabala, it will come as something of a shock to realize that there is a tantric thread running through the tapestry of Jewish mysticism. Well, what is it talking about when it says there is a tantric thread? It's the interweaving or mixture of traditions and teachings. So it's calling it like these threads are woven in, added in to a text, a technique, or practice. Can we just say religious syncretism? Let's go on. Yet modern Kabbalah scholars, and then it lists these two people, from Moshe Idel to Elliot Wolfson to Raphael Patai, have all pointed out the tantric element of Jewish mystical writings and practices. Patai, in particular, emphasizes the possible identity of the Shakina, the feminine aspect of the Jewish deity, with none other than the Hindu goddess Kali. So what is Shakina? It's the feminine aspect of a deity. And these scholars, the ones I just named, are saying they believe it's this goddess, Kali. Now, most of you may not know who this goddess is, and you may not know who Raphael Patai was. He was a scholar of Jewish and Arab cultures. So let's take a look at this. You see in the center, that's that goddess, Kali. It's the one, the Hindu goddess that you normally see with the tongue hanging out, like the pictures on the right. Where did this fad come from all of a sudden, where these actresses and stars, etc., all seem to now want to take pictures with their tongues hanging out? Where that is this even? It doesn't even look normal. It looks stupid. Like you have a mental problem, like you are deranged. Why are you just going to go around sticking your tongue out? And Miley Cyrus is just going to let it all hang out. But you see all of them. And I looked at so many pictures. I only selected a few, but I believe most of you have seen that. So this goddess, this is normally how she is depicted. So encyclopedia.com says Shekinah means God's bride. One of the most perplexing concepts in Judaism is that of the Shekinah, a figure identified as the divine presence and bride of God. Shekinah is a Hebrew noun that means literally the act of dwelling. Are you? I hope you're getting this, family. I hope you're seeing it. So this is who they are equating to. Yeah, I mean, if you try to wrap your brain around that one, it's like, okay, but let's keep going because, as I said, I have a lot to cover. Let's go back now to the article that I mentioned, this research document. It says this mechanism known as Kundalini is the real cause of all so-called spiritual and physical phenomena, the biological basis of evolution and development of personality, the secret origin of all esoteric and occult doctrines, the master key to the unsolved mystery of creation, as told by the serpent. The inexhaustible source of philosophy, art, and science, and the fountainhead of all religious faiths, past, present, and future. Let that sink in. We're looking at the common threads, right? So the secret knowledge, family, is that the serpent is presenting his side of the story. He wants to paint a different picture. Don't look at the tarnished image as presented in the Bible. No, he wants men to believe that he was only trying to help them be better, be wiser. So learn his ways through the occult, science, philosophy, religious faiths, past, present, and future. He wants you to know that he has been working for the welfare of mankind. He's been working hard. So let's continue reading. The author says most of us here share the belief that the really significant breakthroughs are still ahead for science, or those breakthroughs ahead for science will be made by those who are, engaged in consciousness research, and that their discoveries will be made in the inner world of the self. It is a universe far more complex and infinitely greater in extent than the material universe. Reliable guidance is not everywhere to be found, nor are good books on Kundalini plentiful. For this reason, it is essential that new works dealing with this extremely enigmatic subject be responsibly researched and critically evaluated. Otherwise, with our knowledge of mystical experience still in its infancy, we could easily be led in wrong directions, causing unnecessary delays and seriously hampering our progress. All right, so they have taken on this assignment to do the research because the serpent wants man to know he's been working for them. He's been working for them. The author says a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, I believe that's how you pronounce it, says that the world in respect to which normal people are awake, the yogi is asleep. What is the yogi? It's a person practicing yoga. Let's keep going. Please listen to this, because they're going to tell you what happens when you engage in these practices. When someone's going through the steps to reach that top level, it says, at the time of manifestation, a duality comes into being. Universal energy and universal consciousness. Universal energy is subdivided into two parts: the living, prana, shakti, or life energy, and mechanical matter. Universal consciousness always remains unaffected and unchanged. Listen, the individual soul is a tiny reflection of it, like the reflection of the sun in a dewdrop. But the higher prana, sent up by Kundalini, this reflection becomes brighter, and the one is illuminated. Illuminati. You're illuminated. When the changes have been effected, one finds himself completely altered from what he was before, transformed mentally and into an altogether different personality in constant contact with the superconscious realities pervading the universe. So it says all that Gopi Krishna, and most of you have heard of Krishna, has reported in his books and conversations based on his observations coincides almost perfectly with what was held to be true by the sages of India nearly 3,000 years ago. That is why we should seek guidance from those sources, not only of India, but also in the occult, writings of China, Tibet, and Egypt, and in the alchemical and hermetic texts of the West. So they're saying we went back to get sources from all of these different places. We went back to look at the ancient writings. So they point all the way back to Egypt, and Egypt got it where? Babylon. It says it is likely that almost every ancient civilization had its occult doctrine bearing on Kundalini. Almost all of them. So there is a common thread. And their goal is for all of these religions to merge into one. All right, listen. Although I will present theory and practical methods of helping people live with the Kundalini process, the author says, I want to begin by presenting Kundalini in the guise of the great, listen, he's going to tell you what it is. It's a goddess. And listen to how she talks about herself. She says she is the eternal goddess. She's the object of all the Vedas. She's the life principle of the universe. And she's the potent force behind all creation. In the Catholic Church, who do you think that is, family? Who do you think they're talking about here in the Catholic Church? Put it in the chat. Let's see. Nobody? Mary. Yes. Yes. They're saying here, this goddess is the one who creates you all. Listen to what she said. It says she advocates her worship, advising that nothing of significance can occur without worshiping the mother of the universe. Catholic Church, Universal Church. The priority is placed on Mary. So it says, this goddess says it is through her that the yogi is released from suffering, and that is she who fulfills every desire, satisfies the yearnings of the passionate, and leads the adept to the state of self-realization. So she describes herself as being flawless and pure. So this presence that they're inviting, what is that? They refer to as a creative force. But now, if you believe scripture, we know that the creative force behind all creation was the word of Yah. This deity is saying she's the one protecting heaven and earth and the netherworld. And she basically is saying she deserves her worship. Who is this, family? Because here's the thing, that this is the part that was made very clear to me. When you read this, you'll think it's talking about a goddess. Oh, it's talking about a woman. But if you think about Baphomet, he's both male and female. So as you study this out, you'll see that these gods and goddesses are interchangeable. They can be male or female. Now stop and think about this. Is this why there's such a push to get people to use the proper pronouns? Because the serpent manifests as both male and female. Why is there such a push to use gender neutral pronouns? Don't say he or she. Don't say man or a woman. Supreme Court justice can't even tell you what a woman is. So gender fluidity is Baphomet's calling card. Please get this. His agents are taking orders from principalities to recreate the world in this fallen angel's image. And as they say, he goes both ways. Now, it says, how can it be then that Kundalini is now awakening so randomly and capriciously in Western civilization? How can Westerners learn to live with a great and willful goddess who demands nothing less, listen, than their complete devotion? Who wants that, family? This is what the serpent wants. This is what he wants. So it says to say nothing. So once it gets that, the devotion and the annihilation of the personal self, then you can say nothing of the possible transformation of what the physical body, which some yogis equate with this process. And how can we as therapists and healers dare to introject our feeble input into this radical spiritual process? So do you see exercise and staying in shape? It's not the primary focus. And that's what people want you to believe. As I was studying this, going through articles, listening to certain videos, there's a lot of pushback from women, Christian women, because now they have something called Christian yoga. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just exercising. It's just breathing techniques. And it's just helping people to stay healthy. Let's keep going. You're going to see that it's a lot more than that. The residual energy of Kundalini, listen, coils up at the base of the spine once the system is set in motion. And it holds the person in what they call stasis until the time that it will erupt. So as you go through that process, going up those steps. And listen, plunging the person into another level of potential awareness and actualizing a possibility of realizing who they really are. So they really don't know who they are until, they go through this process. But why is it using this statement? It's like being coiled up at the base of the spine. It's speaking about the essence of the serpent being coiled up at the base of the spine, similar to being coiled up at the base or the bottom of the tree. And then as the person continues through the process, it allows it to move up to the top. Let's keep going. So listen to this, because they're now going to tell you what happens to some of the people as they go through the process. Sudden apparent physical illnesses, pains, and eating disorders. So the researcher says one of his subjects reported that their whole body changed, the pulse raced, and the heart pounded, and he was hungry all the time. And he felt he could barely eat enough in 1 week, but he lost several pounds. And then he says, many who awaken Kundalini describe appetite swings during certain stages, ranging from an inability to eat at all for days or weeks to having a voracious appetite. Listen, most commonly describe physical symptoms. They describe heart attacks. According to him, it turned out to be false alarms. They describe having stomach disorders and other digestive tract problems, migraine headaches, extreme lethargy, alternated with hyperactivity, stiffness, intense but floating aches and pains. And he said he talked to two people who were diagnosed with adrenal exhaustion. It says some describe a strong, slow, listen, inner movement in the stomach or up the back, which feels like a fist is pushing up a snake twisting inside of them. Others describe a feeling as if their head is being opened and someone is rearranging their brain. Now, yeah, if you knew this information going in, would you do that? I would think rational people would say, heck no. But that's why it's a secret. They're going to only paint the good life. It's about health of body and mind and soul. But that's not all it offers. It's not all. Let's keep going. It says many people who awaken this Kundalini report earlier experience of precognitive dreams or visions, out-of-body experience, or channeling. There you go. Michael Jackson, Jay-Z, Kanye, Beyonce. Where are they getting the lyrics and the beats that seem to cause an addiction to their music? They're channeling. It's coming from another realm. Family, this is serious. Do you see how subtle the enemy is in his craft? It is presented as something wonderful. It will make you wise, famous, and rich. But what are you exchanging for it? Let's read. It says, excavations indicate. So they went back and they did some excavations to look for folks who were in India, Pakistan, about 3000 BC onwards. And it says, excavations indicate that this culture may have attained a degree of development which has rarely been surpassed until the last few hundred years. Ancient seals from this time depicting, listen, a three-faced God. Didn't we just talk about the three-headed serpent? Three gods, Trinity. Do you see the connection? So they see the three-faced God sitting on a throne in a cross-legged yoga posture on a deer skin, surrounded by a tiger, buffalo, and rhinoceros, and are almost without doubt representations of the god Shiva of later Indian philosophies. The fact that the male god depicted on the seals is known in yoga, let me say that again. It says, the fact that the male god depicted on the seals is known in yoga posture, listen, with erect phallus. Didn't we cover that already? Yeah. So that's how these gods are depicted. And when you see the Baphomet, what do you see there? So they have the erect phallus, and it demonstrates a definite knowledge of the intimate connection that Kundalini has with the reproductive system. So the Vedas in India, it says, are the oldest recorded major scriptures known to exist, and it is even held that they were transmitted orally for centuries prior to being written down. At a much later time came the Upanishads, which were held to be the product of a number of illuminaries. After that came the Vedanta, and they named these things. It says, thus, there was literally a continuous development of the science of yoga for millennia, during which time the disciplines which led to the awakening of Kundalini were developed and refined to an extent that it has been unmatched in any other known culture in the world. Now, family, if you still need to wonder if yoga in any form is okay, there is nothing left to say to you. You just go on about your way. You can't say you didn't hear. So it says, more recent studies by Lombroso, Ellis, and others have concentrated on the observed connection between insanity and genius. What did they observe in their research? The observed connection between insanity and genius. Now, it's like, what in the world are they talking about? So basically, the outcome for folks involved in this can vary. There are instances where some folks are considered to be geniuses, and then there are others where it's like, that person's insane. So it says, and listen to this, because they felt a need to warn people that there are potential dangers. We hope we will be understood and, if necessary, pardoned for saying this, but we have the same reservations about Kundalini that we have about nuclear energy. And who in their right mind would They have the same reservations about it that they have about nuclear energy. It says to ignore the potential good and known advantages is inexcusable, while to disregard the obvious dangers and the known consequences of its misguided use is suicidal at minimum and homicidal at maximum. Family. Listen, how then to maximum its present known and proven advantages and minimize its devastating consequences? Listen, we propose, and this supports the theme of our conference, to demonstrate the connection of Kundalini and the Judeo-Christian teachings concerning true love. Now let that part sink in. Let that part sink in. Let's equate it with the Judeo-Christian teachings concerning true love. Did you catch that? Spiritualize it and wrap it up with a pretty bow of Christian love. All right, let's go on. It says, traditionally, Kundalini is held to be responsible for creativity, genius, mystical experience, psychic phenomena, and in its morbid state, as I have said above, he said, mental illness. If this is indeed the case, then the mystic, the genius, the psychic, and the insane should share a set of common characteristics and experiences which would have to be consistent with those attributed to the awakening of Kundalini in the ancient esoteric scriptures. How might the reality of Kundalini be shown? First, the person in whom it is fully developed, will clearly be a genius. New knowledge will come from him. Knowledge such as Krishna himself offers that elegantly unites the entire psychic, occult, spiritual scene with evolutionary theory and the transpersonal psychology arising from at least Freud, Maslow, and Jung. Second, as the Kundalini process transforms a person, the nervous system and brain undergo changes that will be observable, although the necessary instruments for observing them may still only be on the drawing board. Now, as I was reading that part, do you know who I immediately thought of when I read that? Elon says, how might the reality of Kundalini be shown? It says, first, the person in whom it is fully developed, as I was talking about, will clearly be a genius. It's almost like you can see that there's something about this person. I don't know. How could you know this? How could you be doing all this? It's like, what else is there? So look at the third thing. It says, third, the food which the body uses to nourish the nervous system during transformation comes from the sex organs, the essence of seminal fluid on men, and what Gopi calls the erotic fluids in women. So listen, the reproductive organs increase their activity dramatically, producing many times more copiously than usual. This incidentally explains why ancient statuary show men, even a pharaoh and an Egyptian god, in meditation with an erect phallus. This is not meant by the artist at all to be erotic. No, Gopi is saying it's a frank and literal depiction of a biological fact about Kundalini. So what man wouldn't want to be enticed by that? Those who reverence Yah's word. They learn how to bring those urges under subjection so that they're not led by it. So that they're not led by it. Let's keep going. Don't want to be like Solomon. All right, so 32. Listen to his conclusion of this research. He says, I begin to say now, before I am misunderstood, that the energy I speak of in this paper, listen, is not humanistically created. It cannot be. The awareness of the space above the head is what brings about the conclusion that human creations alone are worthless without divine intervention. So it cannot be energy from a human source. I hope you're getting this. So he recognizes, no, it's something supernatural about this. This isn't something that is normal here that we would see, man doing. This is coming from somewhere else. This practice and what it does to the mind, the body, and the soul is not of human origin. He's saying it came from elsewhere. So if you got anything from this, please remember that. It's not from here. So then where did it come from? Where did it come from? Let's read this from Ancient Origins. It says, tracing the origins of the serpent cult. In mythology, the serpent symbolizes fertility and procreation, wisdom, death, and resurrection due to the shedding of its skin, which is not akin to rebirth. And in the earliest schools of mysticism, listen, in the earliest schools of mysticism, the symbol of the word was the serpent. The light that appeared was metaphorically defined as a serpent called Kundalini, coiled at the base of the spine to remain dormant in an unawakened person. Divinity or awakening one's godhood and latent abilities came with the rituals and teachings, listen, brought by the serpent people. You all. So those fallen angels, remember, they were teaching man, teaching them to do certain things. And now they channel to get information. This is telling you where it's coming from, the serpent people. They taught men the so-called wisdom that came from their father, the devil. Numerous ancient cultures throughout the world worship the serpent being such as Quetzalcoatl and these other names I'll let you look at and pronounce. In Mexico and Peru, the Naga King of India and his Nagan children, Po Nagar in Vietnam, who was their first empress, and the serpent deities, who were beautiful women associated with trees and lakes. The snake goddess of Egypt, Wajet, was protector of the land, kings, and women in childbirth. In Manoa, the snake goddess was addressed as Asarami and was related to the Hittite Ishara, the Khmer Apsara, and the Canaanite Asherah. Pre-Christian Ireland, Scotland, and England also worshipped the serpent. And we can't forget about the one in Africa, Mammy Water. Some of you have heard about that one. It's revered in West, Central, and Southern Africa, as well as by some here in the diaspora. It's a water spirit or goddess, typically portrayed as a mermaid-like entity, but she has the upper body of a woman, and the bottom part resembles that of a fish or a serpent. So, the history and philosophy of yoga. We're going to talk specifically about yoga because most readily identify with that title more so than Kundalini. So we want to look at the history of it, and you're going to see that it's pointing right back to religion, even though folks are told that it has nothing to do with religion. It says the history of the physical and mental disciplines referred to collectively as yoga extends into the distant past of India's religious and cultural heritage. Perhaps as far back as 2,500 years or more, yoga has played a crucial role in the development of the doctrine and practice of a range of Indian religious traditions. So when folks tell you it has nothing to do with religion, they are lying or they're ignorant. It goes back to the practice of a range of Indian religious traditions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and its influence has extended out of India to touch nearly all parts of the world, especially in the past 2 centuries. So something happened 200 years ago. Its manifestation as a popular mode of physical and athletic culture in Europe and the Americas in the 20th and 21st centuries represents one chapter in a fascinating history that has seen both great change and remarkable continuity. So, what are you doing when you engage in this practice? The term yoga is derived from the Sanskrit verbal root yuj, which is cognate with and roughly equivalent to the English infinitive verb form to yoke. When you are involved in yoga, You are yoking or allowing yourself to be yoked to something. This meaning provides one of the most basic and universal definitions of yoga as yoking or disciplining of the body and mind in explicitly theistic or monoistic context. This yoking may also refer to the union of one's innermost self or soul. Listen, it's telling you, with a personal deity. Is it clear enough, family? I mean, is it clear enough for those who want to know? You are yoking yourself with a deity. You can try to push back against that all you want for those who defend it, but that's exactly what you're doing. You are imbibing an evil entity. And that's just the truth. So, this comes from the University of Chicago, the University of Chicago Divinity School. Is yoga a form of Hinduism? Is Hinduism a form of yoga? Well, let's read it. It says, the issues involved are not trivial. Is yoga, in fact, a spiritual practice? More particularly, is it a Hindu spiritual practice? The word yoga originally meant yoking horses to chariots or draft animals to plows or wagons. It's saying, though many yoga practitioners, particularly but not only Hindus, insist that their practice can be traced back to the Upanishads and Patanjali, the word yoga in these texts designates, listen, a spiritual practice or praxis of meditation conjoined with breath control, yoking the senses in order to control the spirit, and then yoking the mind in order to obtain what? Immortality. So you don't need to go through the Most High. You can go through a back door. Buddhist sources in the same period also speak of techniques of disciplining the mind and the body, and the word yoga, owing as much to Buddhism as Hinduism, soon came to mean any mental and physical praxis of this sort. Similar disciplines arose in ancient Greece and later in Christianity. What are they doing with the meditation and the prayer beads? A subject on which Pierre Hadot and Michael Foucault had a great deal to say. This is the general sense in which the word yoga is used in the Bhagavad Gita a few centuries later to denote each of three different religious paths: the yoga of action, the yoga of meditation, and the yoga of devotion. So the Upanishads are the philosophical religious texts of Hinduism. What does it mean? Eternal order or eternal path, which develop and explain the fundamental tenets of the religion. The name is translated as to sit down closely, as one would listen attentively to instruction by a teacher or other authority figure. At the same time, Upanishad has also been interpreted to mean secret teaching or revealing underlying truth. The Upanishads deal with ritual observance and the individual's place in the universe, and in doing so develop the fundamental concepts of the supreme oversoul God, known as Brahman, who both created and is the universe. So when you hear these people saying, oh, the universe will give it to you, ask the universe. You all read The Secret? and that of the Atman, the individual's higher self, whose goal in life is union with Brahman. These works defined and continue to define the essential tenets of Hinduism. There are two differing claims regarding the origin of Vedic thought. One claims that it was developed in the Indus Valley by the people of the Harappan civilization. Their religious concepts were then exported to Central Asia and returned later during the so-called, listen, Indo-Aryan migration. The second school of thought, more commonly accepted, is that the religious concepts were developed in Central Asia by the people who referred to themselves as Aryans, meaning noble or free, and having nothing to do with race, who then migrated into the Indus Valley, merged their beliefs and culture with the indigenous people, and developed the religion which would become Sanatana Dharma. So the term Hinduism is an exonym, a name given by others to a concept, practice, people, or place from the Persians, who referred to the peoples living across the Indus River as Sindhus. I know we're covering a lot, but I don't want there to be any excuse. No excuse. I want you to know what this is and what you're looking at. So let's look at some celebrities who practice Kundalini yoga. Michelle Williams, Jennifer Aniston, Forrest Whitaker, Reese Witherspoon, Kate Hudson, Seal, Melissa Etheridge, Giselle, whatever her last name is, Colin Farrell, Russell Crowe, Gwyneth Paltrow, Cindy Crawford, Sting, to name a few. Oprah is also a fan of Kundalini yoga and loves to sing along with Satnam Kaur, who has also performed at her birthday parties. In our stressed out pandemic times, Kundalini, this article is saying from the Daily Com, whatever, Daily OM.com, it says, in our stressed out pandemic times, Kundalini is having a moment. Celebrities from Oprah to Reese Witherspoon are reportedly devotees. So then let's look at this. Let's just look at this. Super Soul Special. Transform Your Life with Bishop T.D. Jakes. This aired January 1st, 2020. Oprah and Bishop T.D. Jakes talk about how to use transformational thinking to get to the core of who you really are. Isn't that the goal of getting to these 4 levels? So that you can discover who you are. To move beyond limiting beliefs and live life in a new and more purposeful way. Bishop Jakes is known for cutting to the core of many matters, and now he's demonstrating how to become who we are meant to be. So let's see. Defining God, Oprah's New Age spirituality and the power of influence. Oprah Winfrey has become more influential than most of America's pastors and religious leaders. Too many people today follow pop culture icons and celebrities, and even many Christians end up believing their teachings. Oprah has launched book sales and resuscitated careers for many authors and spiritual gurus while giving proponents of higher spirituality a platform, particularly those who promote a new age philosophy. Christian news. Concerns raised after T.D. Jake's wife posts of yoga session at the Potter's House Church. Concerns were recently raised online after Sarita Jakes, the wife of controversial megachurch minister T.D. Jakes, posted photographs of women engaging in a yoga session at the Potter's House during a forum designed to teach women about leading healthy lives. It's all about health, they say. It's all about health. So listen to this. As a way of connecting to, revering, and paying respect to deities, many yoga postures represent not just what the deity looks like, but also everything they stand for. Listen, they're going to tell you, as they practice the posture, they put their focus on the energy and essence of the deity and look to embody their qualities. So is it safe, you all? I mean, do you see how subtle the serpent has been? Just a little bit of leaven. That's all you need. That's all you need. So this excerpt from Defining God says, Oprah has made many confusing claims in the past, including, listen to her statement. She says she's a Christian who believes that there are certainly many more paths to God other than Christianity. She says she's a free-thinking Christian who believes, listen, in my way. But I don't believe it's the only way. Oprah told the caller to simply realize Christianity is but one of many ways to achieve the higher consciousness, and the belief that one must follow a set of doctrines is a consequence of ego consciousness. So no set laws that the Most High laid down. Thou shalt nots. It's subjective. She did it her way. You all. There's so much more, and I'm going to continue with this part in the next upload, y'all willing, because we need to see what happened with the early believers. John talked about many antichrists, and he said they went out from us, but they were not of us. So the leaven, the admixture, was identified then. But there was one who connected himself to the disciples and pretended to be one of them, yet he was not really one of them. We're going to talk about that in the next session, so be sure to join me for that. So I know I've covered a lot in this session, but this information is needed in this hour, family. You need to understand what you're looking at. Things are not what they seem. As the serpent tries to remake the world in his image, the people of the Most High should stand tall and present the true image of the Father. The days ahead are getting darker and darker, but it isn't that the time, if you think about darkness when it's just black outside, isn't that the time for light to shine the brightest? You are the light of the world. When do we need light? We need it when it's dark. So these things are shared to help us stand strong in the faith of Yah's word. The test will come to try your faith. It will come to try your faith. And we want to be ready. We don't want to be like our ancestors when it was time for them to leave Egypt. Think about the tests they faced even before they got to the wilderness. Moses leading thousands of Yah's people. He's leading them, getting the instructions from the Most High. And what blocked their path? A sea. Now they had just witnessed plagues that pummeled Egypt, and now they're looking at a major obstacle. Who was leading them? Moses. But who was leading Moses? The Most High. The Most High was. Let's look at this in Exodus 14. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdal and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it shall ye encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart that he shall follow after them. And I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Most High. And they did so. So the Most High gave Moses instructions. I'm going to tell you where to go. I want you to encamp right here, right by the sea, because Pharaoh's going to say, oh, they're trapped. There is nowhere for them to go. I'm going to harden his heart so that he will follow after them, because I'm going to get my honor. Family, this is what we need to understand. He uses his people so that he can make himself known to the other nations. This is the part we're not getting. This is our assignment. And it's a tough assignment. Just think about everything they've gone through. You're just coming out of bondage. You see all that the Most High has done with the Egyptians. We're free. We be free. You gotta see standing in front of you, like, say what? Like, really? Really? So when the children of Israel saw the Egyptians chasing them, they cried out in fear. Imagine how they were feeling, family. We've escaped the Egyptian army. We've escaped Egypt. Now we have no army and they're chasing us. We're stuck because this sea is in front of us. We're trapped. We're like sitting ducks. So who did they lash out at? Not Yah. They lashed out at Moses. They turned on him and said, why'd you bring us out here? Why'd you bring us out here? They're afraid. They're terrified. They said, because there were no graves in Egypt? Did you take us away to die in the wilderness? Why are you dealing with us like this to bring us out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt to just leave us alone so that we could serve the Egyptians? Look, why did you bring us out here just that fast? They thought slavery was better than freedom. Do you see what fear will do? Now pay attention to the words of Moses, because he speaks to them without knowing what the strategy would be. After they told Moses it would have been better if he'd have left them there to serve the Egyptians so that rather than dying in the wilderness, he says to the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Most High. So if we're going to see the salvation of the Most High, guess where you're going to be? Between a rock and a hard place. Like, this is impossible. Like, how are we going to get out of this? He says, fear not. So get rid of the fear, stand still, see the salvation of the Most High, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. Listen to what Moses said. The Most High shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. The man does not know what the strategy is. He doesn't know. He knows whatever it is, the Most High is going to do something. I don't know what that is. And we know that he didn't know, because in verse 15, the Most High said to Moses, why are you crying unto me? Moses had to go into his secret place like, okay, now, what's the plan, Father? Look, we're stuck. These people are coming after us. These people are mad at me. What are we supposed to do? And the Most High said, why are you crying to me? Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to go forward, keep moving forward. But then he gives him the strategy. Lift up your rod, stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. Now that's where you get up and you just go running. He's crying, they're crying. And most I like, look, stop all that nonsense. Tell the people keep moving. Like, how are we supposed to keep moving when there's a sea in front of us? Like, really? How does that work? Keep moving. So Moses knew that they were to go to that place, but he didn't know what the strategy would be when they got there. So he had to stand and walk by faith as well. And he had to speak faith to the people even when he saw the circumstances. These people are mad at him. But he's speaking faith. He's speaking life to the people. Now, why am I telling you this? That is what you will have to be for your loved one and your loved ones and our other brothers and sisters who are not walking in truth yet. When it's time for us to be gathered and taken out of here, all kinds of things will be going on around us. And it's going to cause many to fear. You can see some things happening already, how things are shifting. So when it's time for us to get out of here, people are going to start murmuring, complaining, then attack those who told them, we the people. And the Most High is delivering us out of the hand of our enemies. They're going to come looking for you. You said we're the people and the Most High is going to fight for us. Look at what these people are doing to us. What should they see when we face what appears to be insurmountable obstacles? They should see your faith rising up, family. They should hear you say, Yah will fight for us and deliver us out of the hands of our enemies. They should see you praying and praising, not whining and complaining with them. You're going to have to set the example because they have not developed their relationship with the Father like you have. What do you think all of this is for? Why were certain ones selected to wake up before the others? We should have some among us who can stand in the gap and be the light for the others. Let's not follow our ancestors this time. Let's not murmur, complain, whine, cry. David encouraged himself in Yah. Yah is faithful and he promised to deliver his people. But you need the test in order for him to show the salvation. I hope this message has been a blessing to you, family. I know I went long. If you have not hit the like button, please go ahead and do that. I know I went long, but I needed to get all of that. It presses on me until I get it out, if you all know what I mean. So I hope you got something out of it. Listen to it again. Know what you're looking at when you see these silly women with their tongues hanging out, people defending yoga or telling you, oh, it's a secret doctrine. It can make you rich if you learn about this. You better know what you're getting into. You better know. Apostle Curtis Lewis, how you doing, sir? How you be? Ooh, I feel like a weight I feel light right now. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I got that delivered. Got it delivered. The real up next. How you doing, beauty with brains? Praises to Yah. How are you all doing? All right, so let's see what you're saying, sir. It's time for them to submit to us per Isaiah 60. The Most High will deliver us and then send us to subdue them. That's when the nations will learn the lesson. Yes, they are going to learn. They're going to learn today. They're going to learn. Yeah, but we need to be ready. Because if we're aligning ourselves and connecting ourselves to these other deities, Most High ain't going to show up. It's like, I ain't going to be a part of that. Come out of her. Separate yourself from these other pagan deities. It's like, it's me. That's it. There can be nothing else but me. That's it. That's it. Let's see. Pacina, clear as Baccara crystal. Good. I'm glad it was clear because that's the goal. We need to understand it. Look, and all you're getting, get understanding. Understanding, because if you don't get the understanding, the enemy will immediately come to steal what you heard. So make sure. Matt Rick said, did you all see the pictures of the blood? So no, I did not. No, all my whole day was tied up working. So no, I did not see that. I didn't even get a chance to see what was happening in the news. So I didn't hear about that one. All right. Yes, let's see what else we have. That's one hip chick. We have to listen and be ready. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Soto yoga is popping up all over the place, but they won't get me. I know that's right. I know that's right. You all, my head was like, oh my gosh. People just, you listen to what people say and you're not researching and understanding the stuff. Well, even with us, because in Christianity, how many of you were in there singing your Shekinah glory songs? We've all been there. We've all been there. So yeah, I'm telling you, when he said his people are destroyed because they lack knowledge, if that ain't the truth, I don't know what is. It is certainly true that we need to understand the tactics, because the serpent has been so subtle, and it's like it gives him a kick when he can get man to worship him, because he's trying so hard to make himself look like the Most High, to make people believe that that's who he is. And obviously we can see that this philosophy, these ideas, the doctrine, it's traveled around the world. Kara Harris said, we've been duped. The Most High deliver us. I know that's right. I know that's right. Let's see. Pacina says the vice president's mom is from the Brahmin class. That's right. That's right. Vita's child. This is an amazing lesson worth listening again. Please do, and share it. If you think someone you know will benefit from this, particularly learning what's really behind yoga, please share this. Or just pray and ask the Most High to put someone on your heart that he wants to hear this, because we can share it, and it's up to them. You never know. You never know. I'm constantly getting messages from folks like, oh, this is the first time I've listened. If somebody sent this to me, et cetera, et cetera. So you never know. Share it and let it sit there, and then pray over it and trust that the Most High will minister to their heart and to their spirits about this. Hebrew girl said, I heard of the word Shekinah, but I never knew what it was. I was just sitting under that mess, just going along, roaming around in darkness. But thanks be to Abba Yah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The reel up next is both the vice president's parents are Brahmin. Yeah, think about it. Think about it. That's something. Well, the rabbit hole, yeah, it goes deep, y'all saint. I agree with you on that. It's deep. As I said, there's a lot more that I am going to share. Don't miss this next one, because we're going to continue to make the connections. It's for our benefit, for the family, for our people, and we need to know the truth. We need the truth. You know what? That is a very good point, Brother Arnold. Moses was trained in all the wisdom of Egypt, yet Yah said he was the most humble man. But let's not miss the fact that he was on the backside of the desert for 40 years going through retraining. So when he came back, it was like a new man. The Most High delivered him from the people, sat him down for a while, and then sent him back to his people. So we also want to keep that in mind. So yeah, we all came up from something. A lot of stuff, we heard, we learned, and we were just doing it because we didn't know. We were ignorant about a lot of these things. So now that we know, when you know better, you do better. You try to help others see the light. But I'm telling you, he's calling his people out to separate ourselves from a lot of this mess. We don't want to look like Babylon. We want to separate ourselves and burn those clothes. Brother Harold says we are unlearning and relearning. We absolutely have to, and we have to be willing to learn. And as these things come out and we're learning, like Shekinah, like I said, I can think of several worship songs, about Shekinah glory, etc. But now it's like, oh no. Now that I know, yes. Zen says, the more I listened, the more backward I was. I learning, the more backward I was. But like I said, we were all there. We were there, Pride of Judah. Kenyan American and not Black. Okay. Terry says, get out of Babylon, my people. Yes, Shaya, we've got to be like children and relearn. And that's the thing. The Most High knows. He knows. So he knows we're having to relearn this. In my time of prayer, I just cry out to the Most High. It's like, we don't even know how to be your people. We've lost so much. The memory of it is lost. It's so skewed. There's so much admixture, built into it. So we have to rely on the Holy Spirit to lead us. Like that little girl that I was showing you, when you spend more time in his presence and then he starts to show you and pull the covers back on some things, you just want to put your hands over your mouth and say, oh my goodness, like, oh, you weep, you cry, it's like, how could I not see this? But remember, Israel was asleep. So there was a lot going on that we just didn't see. We just didn't see. But now he's opening the eyes of his people, opening our ears so that we can hear. All right, family. Ooh, Almost 2 hours. I know Calvin needs some coffee. I am going to wrap things up right here. All right, you all be blessed, family. Enjoy your week. Join me next time.